Ladies and gentlemen, and Springer, as always, welcome back to another episode of Tape to Tape. I'm Dom. With us, we've got Springer. How we doing today, buddy?
Dude, I am so tired. I had such a crazy long day yesterday. Just
Yeah.
cleaning and working, and it's another great thing just happened.
Oh,
Water heater at my place is busted, so
love to hear that.
it's awesome. I
Couldn't be
mean,
more ideal.
no, I know. And see if it was like a gas, like a gas water heater, I'd be just fine with trying to fix it myself. But it's electric, and I mean, not a numbers guy, but last time I checked, water and electricity don't really go well together. So
I
I'm not
wouldn't
really
recommend
gonna
it for
touch
sure.
anything.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
that's probably smart, man.
yeah. So I'm just gonna wait and hope to God that somebody can get to it like tonight or
That'd be
tomorrow. But
nice.
yeah, but we'll see. Worst case Ontario, I'll take a nice little cold shower. I'll get the you know, that'll yeah, feel good. I like
Get
all
the
millionaires take cold showers or something, right? I think
apparently
Gary V
something
said
like,
something like that.
yeah, if you take like hot showers, you're weak and a coward or something like that. I don't know. That's why I
I'm okay
just
with
don't
being a
shower at all, and then
same.
you don't run into any issues. It's perfect.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Yep, you don't. You don't. You don't run into any issues there, but you run into issues everywhere else if you don't shower. So shower up,
uh,
folks.
sometimes,
Sometimes.
dude, I
Depends.
love it. I love it.
Yeah.
Well,
What about
we
you,
have,
man?
oh, just working and yeah, just about the same, dude. I'm exhausted. Like I think we're
Yeah.
hitting the point in the summer where I've maxed out on my social events, like doing shit every weekend. I'm just like, I need a free
hmm
day to relax, and
Yeah.
I think we're gonna finally get that next weekend, hopefully.
Next weekend?
Yeah, next weekend is just gonna be a chill, nothing on the agenda. Gonna relax and not do
Oh boy.
a damn thing, and we are both excited for it. So
Dude,
hopefully
don't you
nothing
hate
comes
that
up this
like
week to change that.
don't you hate that like we're granted we're both still very young, but we're like at the age now where like it's so nice. Like you look forward to that one weekend that you're gonna have
Where you do
off,
nothing.
even if it's like
Yes,
even if it's like a
yes,
month out. You're like
100%.
that
You're
one weekend
you're
is
counting
gonna
down the days for that one weekend where you have nothing to do and you can just
yeah,
relax and have zero obligations.
yeah.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
it's part of life, I guess,
That's, I
growing
guess,
up,
part
being
of growing
busy
up
and
and being a
shit.
big kid these days kind of
Yeah.
sucks. I hate it.
And some of us are bigger kids than others. Yourself,
Isn't that right, Grandpa?
unlike me.
Oh, dude. Well, we have
Jesus
had
Christ.
some wild things going on since you and I last
Yeah.
talked in the NHL. Free agency
Yeah.
started, and we've had a whole slew of contracts and new signings and trades that it just wouldn't be right if we didn't cover some of these names. Big
Yeah.
enough names that
Well,
they are just such a big deal. Uh,
and the big thing too, and you know, um, yeah, there's the big thing too, I guess, is like this is like one of the most like fiscally one of the highest years ever in terms of
oh,
transactions,
and yes, dude.
even
Well,
just
day one
it
almost hit
was
$1 billion.
a billion
What was the
dollars in
exact number? It was
transactions.
like 909.
900, it was like 981, I think,
Okay, that sounds
but
right.
still
Stupid, stupid.
$981 million
We were
for
spent on contracts day
yeah,
one of free agency.
yeah,
We
yeah, for
knew it was
guys
going to be
to
crazy, folks, but we didn't know it was going to be this freaking crazy. It was just
oh,
unbelievable. Um,
oh,
I mean, some of
got a
the bigger
list.
names. Yeah, I I'll list off a couple of them. If any of them jump out to you, actually no, I got a couple that already are jumping out to me as I'm looking at them.
Okay.
The
All
first
right.
one that was kind of big news that went down. Vincent Trocheck going to the Rangers after having been with the Hurricanes for quite some time.
Mm-hmm.
Switching it up, moving to New York, he got a pretty good deal there. I think that's pretty solid. I don't have much else to say on that one. I think he fits the Rangers well. I think it's a good sign for him. It's a good sign for the Rangers, and it gives them a little more depth and stability than they had this past season.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think I think he should be able to fit in that lineup pretty well. I think it
Absolutely.
should be a seamless transition. I don't know, for whatever reason, I mean, if you don't watch the series, the what is it, round 2 or whatever, the Canes and um or no, maybe that was no, those second round. Yeah,
Yeah. The Canes and Rangers.
Canes and Rangers. If you
Yeah.
don't watch that series, I feel like there's a lot of similarities between those two teams, just in
I
terms
agree.
of ice play.
I agree. I agree.
But
I
yeah,
agree. Another big one, Campbell Soup heading up to Edmonton from Toronto. Jack Campbell, goaltender. I think this is a massive move by the Oilers.
hmm
It's
hmm
it was glaringly obvious that for the last 3 years, their worst position on their team was their goaltender, and they had no space to do anything about it. They couldn't really make any moves because nobody wanted who they had. Uh,
hmm
this gives them a scary looking team.
yeah,
I truly think that they have the ability to do some serious damage, especially
yeah,
with some of the other teams in their division not looking as great as they did last season.
yeah, yeah. But I think it's very interesting. I think that, dare I say, honestly, I feel like this year was kind of a fluke for them.
For
I
the
think that
Oilers,
for the Oilers, I think
really
that. I mean, if you look at like halfway through the season last year, they were imploding on themselves,
true.
and
Well, I
I'm
mean, halfway through the season this
curious.
year, they were imploding on
Well,
themselves.
yeah. Well, and what's so funny to me is that, I'm sure that there was a lot of issues within the locker room itself, right?
I'm
So
sure
what do they do? What do they do? They bring in
they
Evander
they bring in
Kane.
a Vander Kane.
Yeah. So that's why I'm like,
When I think of a guy that's really going to solve locker room issues, it's Evander Kane is number one. First guy comes to mind. The guy who's
you
been
know,
accused of gambling on his own games and having a gambling problem and being millions of dollars into debt. That's the guy that I think is really going to pull a team together and get them to win. But let me tell you why, Springer. I think it's because he's got to bet on something to win back his money. And so he probably got into that locker room and he said, "Boys, I got a couple million on tonight's game. We got to put up a dub." And they would go out and
yeah,
do it. No, obviously that was never happening. But
yeah.
I
I
agree
mean,
with you. He does not seem like the guy that you want to bring in to create a culture or be a part of a culture that doesn't have issues in the locker room. Like you said, these guys were calling
yeah.
each other out in press conferences. Basically, there was one where McDavid straight up basically says, "We lost that game because of Mike Smith. We lost that
hmm
game because Mike Smith could not stop a fucking puck."
hmm
I can't remember. Do you remember what the quote was? It was something along the lines of like, "Well, you put in 5 goals and that should be enough to win, but tonight it just wasn't."
Yeah.
And like,
Yeah.
it, tensions were high, and like you said, bringing in Evander Kane to a high tension situation, that's a hot
hmm
take.
Well, very hot take. So that's why I'm like, especially the locker room, that very much feels like it's kind of just on the rocks as a whole, like all the
Mm-hmm.
time. Where one guy has one bad day and it's just a whole domino effect. The whole team just, gets down on themselves in the locker room as a whole. So it'll be very interesting. And I think it's nice for Campbell to go from Toronto over to Edmonton, just because I think in terms of media wise, which
Yeah.
for whatever reason, goalies, it seems like, have the hardest time with media.
Oh,
Just
always. Always.
it seems
Well,
like,
you got to think about it. At the end of the day, your goalie is your last defense. Like you
right,
expect them to stop the puck, even when it's not easy.
right.
And so they're going to take the majority of the lashback
Yeah.
on that.
Well, and that's the thing that I feel really bad for him just as a whole, like, pretty much every Canadian goalie is, you,
Right.
you always hear the bad stories. You never hear the good ones,
No,
it seems
never,
like, from,
never.
goalies and Canadian teams. So I think it's going to be good for Campbell, because I think that it's probably just going to be very similar to the Toronto media in Edmonton. So I think that should be a pretty seamless transition. But yeah, just the locker room as a whole, I'm I'm curious to see how it turns out this year.
I agree with you there. I do think obviously as the season went on, it got better. You don't
Mhm.
make it into the playoffs on a pretty solid deep run if you have horrendous locker room chemistry. It just doesn't happen. So it clearly has gotten a little bit better. But I think this also speaks volumes to where the Oilers are at and where they're moving. Because if I'm Jack Campbell and I'm leaving the Toronto Maple Leafs, who, let's be honest, are pretty fucking stacked for the next couple of years. They like I the whole first round, never making it out of the first round of the playoffs. Like that aside, I get it. That weighs a little heavy on people, and that might be hard to play through. But that
A
aside,
little
they
bit.
have a phenomenal team. They are going to make the playoffs for the next 3 years, at least.
Mhm.
And the fact that Jack Campbell was willing to leave that instead of trying to talk with Toronto and sign an extension and go over to Edmonton, I think that speaks volumes in itself. He sees potential in Edmonton and he wants to go win a cup and he thinks that Edmonton can do it. I think that's huge. I think that's massive, and I think the Oilers are going to be they're going to be a force to be reckoned with, along with a couple other teams that we have not really talked about, nor have we thought about talking about because of how trash they've been in the past couple of years. But they made some great moves, and that brings us right into our next guy, Andrew Kopp, heading to the Red
Mhm.
Wings. And I think I want to speak more on this for the Red Wings' sake as opposed to Andrew Kopp's sake, because the Red Wings, in addition to adding Andrew Kopp, also added David Perron from the St.
Yeah.
Louis Blues, as well as Ben Sherratt. Uh, like these are three big name guys that are difference makers, and on top of that, you have a Detroit Red Wings team who, like, you look at them last year, they battled. They handled
Mhm.
themselves well for being such a young and kind of inexperienced team. They played well. I think that adding these three pieces not only give them experience and depth, but it gives them like fire, dude. They
Mhm.
haven't had any guys that they can look to and like be, super stoked about having in the past 2 to 3 years. You now have added almost 4 or 5 in a matter of a day. I think the Red Wings made some of the best moves on the first day of free agency that I've ever seen. It was impressive. Uh,
Yeah. Oh,
yeah,
absolutely.
they did a great job.
I think so too.
Those are big
Yeah, and I
names,
think,
big names.
and I will say, I feel like Dylan Larkin, captain for the Red Wings,
Yes,
is gonna really, really benefit from this as well,
yes,
just because,
yes.
to an extent, I mean, Larks isn't that old of a guy,
No,
but I
no,
mean,
dude, he's pretty
God,
young.
the fact that he was pretty much like the senior, the guy on that Red Wings team that had, you know, some of the most experience on that team, is just kind of mind-boggling to me. So I think that bringing in some other guys to kind of, provide their experiences, and I don't know, kind of
Right.
just, well, like, round out the team, I think is going to be very, very beneficial for Larks, and obviously the Red Wings as a whole too.
I
So
think so too. Well, and on
insane.
top of
But
that, you look at their goaltending. They picked up Ville Husso from the Blues as
hmm
well,
yeah.
and that was somewhere they kind of struggled with last year with Grice.
hmm
I think it was Grice, wasn't it? I can't. I paid so little attention to the Red Wings. Grice sounds right, but I'm not totally positive.
Yeah.
Anyways, yeah, I mean, dude, they added goaltending. They added forward strength. They added defensive strength. I think they're don't sleep on the Red Wings next year. I think they are going to have a good run if they play their cards right and if they work really hard in the offseason. They're going to have a really good chance at making some waves in the
Do you
NHL for
think,
sure.
from the day we're recording, do you think the Red Wings are a playoff team this year?
Ooh, yes,
Yes.
I do.
Wow.
I do.
Okay.
I
Okay.
do. I think if Husso continues to play the way that he has played, he's very young, but he has shown that
Hmm.
he can battle with the best of them. You saw it in the playoffs. He's a fantastic goaltender, and I
Hmm.
think that goes a long way, as well as the three big names: Top, Perron, and Sherrod. Those are key components as well, and a couple other signings that they had. I think they make the playoffs. Yep, I do.
Wow, that's crazy.
So, what about
I'm
you?
excited to see. I I think that they're gonna fall just short. I think it's gonna be
Okay,
like literally by a couple of points,
couple
maybe.
points. Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
But I think they're gonna fall short this year. I think that they're going to be in a good position though to make some more good moves next off season. And I think at that point we're looking at, first round plus. Like, I could see them easily being a second round team, depending on what kind of moves they make and what they're able to acquire next
Yeah,
year. But
yeah. It'll definitely be a telling season on if these moves
mhm.
were worth it or not, and how
Oh
they're
yeah,
paying off for them.
absolutely.
Let's jump into some of the other free signings. Big kind
Yeah.
of one of the bigger ones on the table was Darcy Kemper,
Hmm.
the reigning Stanley Cup champion goaltender for the Colorado Avalanche. He signed with the Washington Capitals. Um, this was something, Springer. I think you and I were talking the night before free
Hmm.
agency, and this was actually
Hmm.
something that I guessed was him going to the Caps. It just kind of made sense, and I think it was a good move on both ends. What were your thoughts on this one?
I, I'm with you. I think that he is going to fit really well within that organization. I think it's going to be very interesting, I guess, to see what kind of role he takes on with that Caps team. I think that it's I, I'm not sure off the top of my head what they got him for, but obviously with the Stanley Cup bias, I'm sure it probably was a little bit more than
A
they
little
should have
more than
paid
it
for
should
it.
have been. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's not like, let's be honest, it's not like Kemper was the reason that.
So this is what I was going to follow up to what you're saying is almost exactly what you're saying.
Hmm.
I don't think Kemper is that great of a goaltender. I'm sorry.
Hmm.
I'm going to be real blunt here. I have never watched a game and watched Kemper and been like, this dude's unbeatable. This dude is phenomenal. This dude deserves to win a cup. It's nothing like watching Jack Campbell sometimes, Marc Andre Fleury, Igor Shosturkin. Like those are guys that you watch their game and you think to yourself, "This is unbelievable. How can a human being do this?" I've never once watched a game that Kemper plays in and thought that. By
Yeah.
no means, by no means am I saying he's a bad goaltender. I think he's a great goaltender. He's solid and he gets the job done. But I've never looked at him and thought this guy's phenomenal. This guy deserves a huge contract. So I agree with you. I think whatever the Capitals are paying him, it was probably a little bit too much because he's fresh off winning a cup, and that
Mhm.
carries some heavy weight to it.
Well, let's not forget, 2 years ago, he was on the fucking Arizona Coyotes.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
it one of the worst teams that year, one of the worst teams the year after that, one of the worst teams the year before that.
One
So
of the worst teams this year,
he's
one of the worst teams next year.
well, yeah. Hey,
Likely.
at least they're hopefully gonna sell out. But um we'll see. But I he's not a 1A kind of guy.
No.
And I think that the only reason honestly the Avs managed to, pick him up and keep him in is almost kind of that 1A guy is because they literally just needed a body in net,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
as long as you can stop a couple pucks, like regardless of how many you give up, the guys on that, forward core are gonna put
Gonna go
pucks in the other net.
they're gonna go get some back for you.
Absolutely.
I thought the same
Absolutely.
thing, dude. I thought the same thing. I never once was expecting a massive save. Did he have some? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Every goaltender does in the NHL.
Hmm.
You get your moments and you have some great big saves. And that's awesome for him. Again, I'm not saying he's a bad goaltender. I just have never thought there was much hype around Darcy Kemper.
Yeah.
I've never looked at him as in anything more than an average, maybe a touch of a step above average of a goaltender. And that's kind of,
Yeah.
I think, all I'll ever see him as, unless he comes out with the Caps next year and proves me wrong and is putting up a, 980 save percentage. I'll be like, all right,
Mhm.
this kid's the real deal. But until
Yeah.
that happens.
I mean, nobody's experts on this, we're just going to fully eat
Exactly.
our words,
Exactly. I love eating my
but
words,
it's,
dude. Happens all the time.
dude, me too. Me too. They're,
Well, dude, while we're getting into some goaltenders, I figured it'd be funny to touch on Big Save Dave, just because I know how much you love him. Uh, Dave Riddick going to the Jets to back up Helya Buck over there. That one
yep.
makes sense. I think I, we call him Big Save Dave, but not a whole lot of big or saves happening lately.
No,
But I think
no.
I think that's a solid spot for him. I think
Yeah.
he'll fare well as a backup. I kind of think that's the role that he has slid into and fits well into. And
Hmm.
again, he's probably not going to go out and get you a dub every night, but he's going to give you a night off to compete while your starting
Hmm.
goaltender rests. And I think that's what's important.
Hmm.
Um,
Again, just another one of those guys who is basically just a body in a net for you.
yes, yep.
He's the guy to give your starting guy the
A,
night off
a
or
little bit
two
of a
nights off.
rest. Yep,
Hmm.
exactly,
Absolutely.
exactly. Uh,
Yep.
another guy, another goaltender that we've got, Louis Domingue, heading to the Rangers to back up Shesterkin after they traded off Georgiev over to the Avalanche.
Old
This
spicy pork
this
himself.
yeah, so this one it was more of a funny kind of. I thought it was hilarious. So for those of you that don't know, Louis Domingue, in the first game of the first round of the playoffs, the Rangers and the Penguins were playing. Louis Domingue was on the Penguins. He was their third string goaltender. The starter was injured, so they were starting their backup, and the game went to triple overtime. And in between the second overtime and the third overtime, Louis Domingue apparently went and had himself a nice meal. We'll get more into that in a second. But then gets told at the start of the third overtime, "Hey, we're Louis, we're going with you." I can't remember who their backup was that they had started that day, but he like tweaked something, got injured in that second overtime. So they went to Louis, and so after the game, they were asking Louis, "Did you know you were going in the third overtime?" And he was like, "Quite honestly, I didn't. As a matter of fact, I actually kind of stuffed my face with some spicy pork that was back in the locker room. Had like a full meal, and then all of a sudden they're telling me that I'm going in net." So I tell you this background story. It was funny. It was a big deal. Made some waves in the NHL. So Louis signs a deal with the Rangers, and the first thing he tweets is, "Anybody know of the best spicy pork place in New York? Asking for a buddy." And so I just thought that was funny. The guy's got a great sense of humor about it. It's super
Oh
funny. And
yeah,
the Penguins went on to win that game too. Obviously they
they
didn't go
did.
on to win the series and they blew a 3-1 lead, but they did go on to win game one in triple overtime with Louis Domingue making his, wasn't that his career playoff debut?
I think
I think it
so.
I think it was. I could be wrong, but anyways, funny
No.
story. Love to see him still getting some success. I think he'll fit great up in the Rangers there. Um,
Yeah.
let's see. How about Springer? I'll let you talk about this one.
Uh-oh.
Burakovsky to the Kraken.
Uh, we needed it. We
Yeah, you
needed.
did.
Yeah. We needed some. I don't know, some more experience. Kind of just fill our line a little bit more because it seems like we'd had last year, especially we had bits and pieces that worked really well, but obviously it's a very much a team sport, so you need all you need every line working and rolling, and I think that this is just going to help, especially with some of the guys that we picked up in the rookie draft, which I'm sure we'll get to a little bit later, hopefully. But yeah, I'm very stoked. Also a clutch guy too. We saw that last year in the Stanley Cup Finals. Or I guess literally just a couple of weeks ago in the Stanley Cup
Right.
Finals.
Right.
But
Yeah.
yeah, so clutch guy, and
Very
I
much
think that
so.
we need that too. So
Yeah.
I'm
Oh,
excited for that.
100%. 100%. I think he's going to fit well with you guys and your
Hmm.
system. I think it's, he's a great addition, like you said, and you need some more depth on that team, and
Hmm.
you're slowly but surely getting it.
Yeah, we are.
Couple other trades and extensions that were, I thought, noteworthy before we jump into the last two items regarding free agency. Uh, Robert Thomas and Nick Leddy both signed pretty decent extensions with the Blues. I think that was big for them. I think they overpaid on Leddy a tad, but I think they needed him,
Yeah.
and I think at the end of the day, overpay a little bit isn't the worst case. It's not like they're the Wild and they overpaid a fuck ton for Parise and Suter, and now they're stuck with zero cap because they have to buy that out. But that's a different story. Anyways, so good extensions there for the Blues. That was smart on them. And then a big one that kind of came out of nowhere. Brent Burns traded to the Hurricanes. This was a shot in the dark. There weren't really any trade rumors about him going anywhere.
No.
Nobody had talked about him wanting to leave. All of a sudden, I'm just getting notification. Brent Burns head to the Hurricanes. I'm like, what in the heck? So that
Yeah.
was an interesting one. Um,
Yeah.
I don't know. I think I'm not going to really talk about the trade itself. More so, just kind of Brent Burns in Carolina. I think that's a great fit. I think
Oh, I
Carolina
do too.
is, you lose a couple big names to free agency. Trocheck is the first one that comes to mind, but you might lose some depth somewhere and you regain it somewhere else. And I think Brent Burns is a great example of that. And he's gonna be a good addition to the team, man. He's very brute force kind of guy. He's always has been in the
Hmm.
league, and he's a very enforcer type. He'll keep
Hmm.
your big name players safe if you need somebody to go after goons on the other team that are being jackasses. So
Yeah.
smart on the Hurricanes. I don't know. What are your thoughts? I think they did a good job in getting him. I'm curious to see how it's going to play out. But what are your thoughts on that?
I it's tough because I definitely feel like Burnsy's on the tail end of his career. And you can kind of
Yeah.
tell just because I haven't really heard his name much in the hockey world
No, not
lately.
much. He's been kind of quiet,
It seems like it's just been kind of stale for him. And I'll
dude.
be
Ever
honest
ever
with you,
since I think ever since Joe Thornton left the Sharks,
hmm
Brent Burns' name
hmm
fell off the face of the map. I I just
yeah,
ever since Joe Thornton was not on the Sharks, I barely heard Brent Burns' name.
yeah. And it's crazy. I think it yeah, I think he's just gotten way too complacent there. And I think that honestly, this is a deal for him, just in
Yeah,
terms of
yeah,
trying to, trying to get out of just the regular day to day. He needed to make a change in his location to
kind
kind
of
of
kind of lights a little
hopefully
fire under
revamp
his
him.
ass. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Revamp it. Little extra. All right, look, obviously San Jose wasn't it. You weren't thriving. You weren't feeling it. Like let's get you moving. Let's get you somewhere else, and maybe this will fire him up to be like, oh yeah, that's right. Like this is what it's like to new environment, new experiences,
Yeah.
kick some
Plus,
ass.
he's just a good old boy too, and
He is just a
so
good old
like he
boy.
has a ranch in Texas, so he um being in North Carolina, I'm sure he's just gonna absolutely eat it up there. So I think yeah, he's looking forward to that too.
Oh, for
But
sure, for
yeah,
sure.
so
Well,
yeah.
that brings us into our second to last little tidbit here regarding free agency. Johnny Gaudreau, Johnny Hockey, heading to the Columbus Blue Jackets. Um, I'll speak briefly on this one, and then I'll let you take it over, Springer. I fucking hate this. I think it's horrendous. I can't believe he didn't take the deal the Flames gave him. And for so many reasons. The more money aside, dude, he has built a fan base that absolutely adores him in Calgary. They love this guy, and he's gonna throw that all away to go play in Ohio. I'm Am I hearing that? Ohio, Columbus, Ohio? Are you kidding me, dude? You had the opportunity to have your number in the rafters in Calgary. Not opportunity, I would argue almost guarantee if you would have signed an extension with them. Your number is going up in the rafters. Other than winning a cup, I feel like that's every kid's second dream.
Yeah.
First
Got
one's
a
hoisting the
statue.
cup. Second one is my number's up in the rafters because I'm
Yeah.
that fucking good. And Johnny Gaudreau just kind of pissed that away by heading to Ohio. I think it's horrendous. I think it's great for Columbus. Obviously, they're gaining a huge asset, one of the better guys lately in the league overall. I hated this. I wanted him to stay in Calgary. I wanted to keep him in red and white. I think that's where he belongs. So, and the fact that
Yeah.
Calgary offered him more money, I mean, that's just icing on the cake of where I stand. So, gross. I hate it. I wish Johnny Hockey nothing but the best. I'm sure he's going to go thrive. It's just going to be real hard to see him in Navy, and he better get used to hearing that cannon go off in Columbus, because I know that scared him a couple times when he's been in there, and it always
Yeah.
throws him off guard. So he's gonna have to get used to that one now.
Yeah. All right. Rant time. Get ready, ladies and gentlemen.
Here we go.
All right. So a little background story for you. So when I really started to fall in love with hockey, growing up in Houston, didn't really, obviously there was no team for me to root for NHL wise. So, one of the reasons why I decided I wanted to become a Calgary fan, one was because my dad was going there for work a lot, just with the oil and natural gas field. And second reason was this kid, Johnny Gaudreau, out of BC in Boston College, and he was 5'9". So a little guy,
We
much
love a
like
short
myself,
king. We love a short
much
king.
like myself. I said, this kid is thriving in the NHL. He's the same height as me. So why, if he can do that, why can't I? So that was one of my big inspirations, and why I have a Johnny Ham and Cheese jersey and or
Johnny
sweater and all
Ham and
that stuff.
cheese.
Right. So yeah, with that being said, I think that there's a lot that's not being said, because I think that the big reason why to the media, the big reason why is because he was wanting to move closer to home. Well,
True.
Columbus isn't exactly closer to home. I mean, it is obviously, but it's not. There's so many other places he could have signed that were significantly closer.
Oh, 100%.
So that makes you wonder, surely there has to be something else involved. And what I saw on Twitter, I don't know who tweeted it out, but my apologies. But basically, this person said that his wife works at the children's hospital in Calgary, and Columbus has one of the best children's hospitals in North America. So a lot of people are speculating that the reason he wanted to go to Columbus was for his brand new wife to go
All
and
right.
work.
Well, now I feel like a piece of shit for everything I just said. Thanks a lot, Spring.
But this is all just speculation. This is all speculation. I mean,
This is
shit, for the money
true.
Calgary was
This is
throwing at him,
true.
he could have bought her a PJ and she could have just flown back and forth.
Yeah, this is
Like,
also true.
so it's all speculation, I don't want to say that that's the reason why he would have picked Columbus, but sometimes people kind of
Could have
forget that.
could have been a pulling factor for sure.
Yeah,
For sure.
A lot of people sometimes forget that this is a job for these guys, and
This
you
is
have
true.
to live, and you have a family, right? You have to help your significant other achieve their dreams and
That's
goals and
right.
aspirations,
That's right.
regardless of what your job is, So I think moving somewhere that is better suited for the family is, I think, the reason why he wanted to do this.
Well, if that's the case, then I'm all on board with it.
Yeah. But that doesn't stop the pettiness of the media. Oh
This
man,
is true.
I'll clip this in, but basically a news anchor in Calgary, CBC News, said this. And I don't know. I find it hilarious,
Dude,
and
it's so funny. It's so funny. Like
I just yeah,
just
like
just a little jab. Like just like it's such a and it's such a Canadian thing too to be like he's still polite and he's like he doesn't say anything mean about it, but it's just enough
no,
where if you know the situation, you're like, "Oh my gosh."
just
uh
a nice little subtle
uh
jab. You're like,
that's probably getting back to Johnny.
probably. Oh, and it went viral too.
Oh, it
So
did. It did.
yeah, but yeah, a funny story from that is, I think it was like ABC 11 or something in Columbus, um, basically found that, and played that recording on their broadcast, and then basically went on to say, hey, if you want to be Johnny Goudreau's beat reporter for us, we will pay you significantly less money. And then I think like the next day or the day after that, they actually
They
brought
like
him on
brought him
and
in.
interviewed him.
Dude, that's
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah.
I
So
love that.
pretty
I
funny
love that.
story, but it's very very interesting. It's a very polarizing thing because I don't think that there is a chance in chicken dicks hell that anybody thought that Johnny Goudreau was going to end up with the Columbus Blue Jackets.
No, dude. I
But
sure didn't. And here we are. Here we are.
here we are.
Well, at the end of the day, I think it's great for him and his family if that's where they want to be and if that's where they want to
Mm-hmm.
end up. Happy for him.
Yep,
Uh,
absolutely.
and like you said, there's stuff behind the scenes that we probably don't understand and don't know, and the media probably never will know, and that's good. Like keep that all private. And do what's best for you. So Johnny to
Absolutely.
Columbus, I hate it, but Springer brings up some good points. Might have been for the family. So I think the last thing in free agency that we're really going to talk about is where in the hell is Kadri going to end up? We are 4 days into free agency, five,
Yep.
and
Yep.
he was he was number two on the list before Goudreau. So he's now the most sought after free agent at the moment. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't tell you, dude. I
Mm-hmm.
couldn't tell you where he's going to end up.
Well, I
Maybe with the
saw.
Avs, maybe Detroit. I mean, with all the moves they're making,
Yeah, no
Senators,
kidding.
they're making some great moves.
Yeah. Well, I saw this come out yesterday. Uh, I, yeah, I can't remember who tweeted it out either, but it's a reliable source, and they said that Kadri's not wanting to go any to a team unless they are a contender. And I guess that
That's I love that. I love that.
according to this, that pretty much knocked out most of the teams that were interested in him.
Got it.
So I, I'm curious to see what teams are still in the fight, because
So
this is according to who he thinks is a contender, right?
this is
It's not
also true.
necessarily
It's not
not necessarily
necessarily the stats. It's like who he
right.
believes has the key pieces to make it happen in the next couple of years. Is he did that report also talk about is he looking to sign like a certain length of a deal, or does it that matter at all?
It didn't say.
Okay.
I think that he's really kind of just looking for a contender, you know?
Okay.
I
That
think
makes sense. That makes sense. That's good for
yeah,
him. I didn't know if he was looking like I want to go to a contender, but I also want you to sign me to 3 years or more. Or if he's
right.
like, I want to go to a contender, and if you sign me for 1 year, great. If you sign me for seven, great. Like, I'm sure it's probably more so the latter. Like, if his criteria is that he wants a contender, he's not going to turn down a contender with a 1 year deal or 2 year deal if he wants,
Yeah,
four or
exactly.
five. He'll make it work. If his
Hmm.
main point is winning another cup, he'll make it work.
Yeah.
So Interesting, interesting. Kind of puts him. I don't know what teams are talking to him or what all the cap space looks like, but there's a couple teams that come to mind. He could stay with the Avs, um, Oilers.
Edmonton.
Yep,
Could
yep.
you imagine Kadri and Kane in the same locker room?
Oh, dude. I mean,
That's almost half as bad as Brad Marchand. So,
okay.
but that's
Hey
still
now,
pretty bad.
hey now, hey now.
That's what I'm saying. Half as bad.
Don't give them that credit. It's hard. It's
It's
hard to
true.
get. It's hard to get to the Marchand level of
Uh,
ratness.
I know. Oh
Although to
man.
be fair, like he's Marchand's probably a guy where in the locker room he's probably great. He's probably
Oh,
he's the
yes.
definition of a guy you want on your team, and every other player in the league despises him. But as far as like being in the locker room, he's probably a great guy. That being said, I still hate him, and he
Oh
sucks.
yeah.
No, you're right. Kadri maybe to Edmonton.
Um,
It just depends on like. Here's the other question: is he willing to take less money for a contending team? Because like if that's the case, he opens up his range to the Wild. He opens up his range to um, the I don't know what the Blues cap space looks like, but they don't have a lot. But I mean, if you're signing him to a 1 year deal, 2-3 mil, like I don't know. I don't know. I think he'll go for more than that, but I think it's going to depend on what he wants. If he's focused on just a contender, that's all I want. And if you're a contending team, I'll consider any offer. Interesting.
yeah.
Uh,
Well, and it's also curious. I'm curious too, and I don't know this off the top of my head, but if he's looking to take less money but also be on a cup contender, why wouldn't he just stay with the
Stay with the Avalanche.
Avs?
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I'm thinking too. Is like, so there's got to be some more criteria where he's, you know, they're paying me more contract terms and most importantly a contending team. So
Yeah.
we'll see. Definitely something that we will keep an eye out for in the next couple of days and into the future. We will keep
Yeah.
everybody updated. We hear anything or if anything goes on. But I think that kind
Yeah.
of wraps up the free agency talk.
Yep.
Let's go ahead and jump into our word of the day. We haven't done one of these in quite some time. It's been a minute,
Odd minutes.
but
Yeah.
we got a good one. We got a good one, and I
We
think it
do.
it plays very well into the episode today. Word of the day is tenor. Uh, let's see. Some synonyms are rocket, smoke show,
Dime.
uh, dime. Yes, yes. Tenor. It's basically a girl, very hot, or I guess or a guy. Could be a guy or a
Poor
girl.
guy.
I guess the
Hey,
guys
we
and
don't
girls can all be tenors.
discriminate.
That's right.
They can. We can all be
They
tenors.
can all be tenors. Springer
Tenor, but I barely know her. Had to say it. I'm sorry.
had
Had
to get
to.
it once. Had to get it once.
Had to. Just
Uh,
one.
yeah. I mean, that's about it. Doesn't take a whole lot of explaining, but it
No.
lets you in on some of the hockey lingo.
Yeah.
Which brings us into a new segment that we're going to try out today. I'm pretty. Springer, I don't know about you. I'm pretty excited about this one. I think it's going to be fun, and I think it's got a lot of ability to let us be creative. So, for those of you
Yeah.
who are familiar with the TikTok trend going around, it's like the "she's a 10 but" sort of deal. So, Springer and I are doing "she's a tenor but." Now that everybody's familiar with the word tenor, and of course, it's not just restricted to her being a tenor rocket smoke show, but
She can be an eighter or a
she
sevener
could be
or
she could be a
a
sixer
twoer.
or
Yeah.
oneer.
Yeah.
I barely know her. Okay, I got
Oh.
mine out too. Sorry. So Springer and I have a couple that we're just gonna throw at each other. Obviously we made these kind of specific to each other, but I think as we continue to explore this avenue and this segment, we'll get a little more broad and it'll be funnier and I'm excited for it. So I'll go ahead
Yeah.
and get one going first here for you, Springer. She's a
Okay.
tenor, but she hates goalies.
Ooh. I think that makes I don't know why she would hate goalies, but that brings her down to like a 6.
Yeah,
I
agreed.
can I can I
Agreed.
could put up with, you know, if we're talking a tenor, but she like, you know,
Don't spoil
she
it. Don't spoil it. We've got plenty more to go. But
okay, okay.
yeah, no, I agree.
She's
I
a
agree.
6.
She hates goalies. 6. See ya.
6. 100%. All right, got one for you now. Okay. She's an 8, but she only orders things off the kids menu.
9.
What?
I mean, dude, she's cost effective. Are you kidding me?
That's true. That's
That's
true.
that's genius.
That's
Now
true.
the only issue I could see us running into is if we go to a restaurant where the kids menu has a limit on like
Mm.
age, and it's like must be 14 or younger to order off the kids menu, and she still orders off of it, and then the waitress is like, "Hey, you're not 14. I just served you a glass of Cabernet Sauvignon," and she's like, "I don't care. Give me my kids menu." Like I could see that causing ruffling some feathers, causing some problems, but at the end of the day, cost effective. I love it, and as long as she walks out happy, we're good to go, man.
I
Give me a 9.
guess. Okay.
Um,
Okay.
All right, Springer. She's a tenor, but she refuses to watch any team other than the Flames.
So she's delusional. Um, ooh, you gotta. I honestly, I gotta respect a a female hockey fan who is very passionate about a team. So I mean, I think she's a she's still a tenor.
All righty. Wow, I like it, man. I
Yeah,
like it. I like it.
regardless of how delusional she is.
Regardless of how brokenhearted she is that Johnny Hockey is not playing for the Flames anymore.
Yeah, right. Oh God, that would be bad. Okay. She's a 6, but she's a franchise caliber goalie.
Oh, oh, oh. She's a 6.
Mm-hmm.
I think that makes her a 7.
Wow.
I don't think it sways that much for me. And here's kind of my thought: like the jump from a 6 to an 8 is bigger and requires more than being a franchise goaltender than say a 7 to a 9. I don't know if that makes
Mm.
sense in anybody else's head,
It
but
does.
I can't like being a franchise goaltender is kick ass and all, but it's
Mm.
not quite enough for it to make a 6 into anything more than a 7. So I'm gonna go 7.
Yeah. The jump from a 6 to a 7 between a 7 to an 8
Is
is in
astronomical.
yeah,
Astronomical. Yep. I
huge.
couldn't agree more. I love it.
Huge.
Okay. She's a 6, but her favorite player in the league is Maddie B.
You said she's a 6?
She's a 6.
Oh, we're making that jump baby to an 8.
I love it. I love it. That's incredible.
Got to. Got to.
Got to
Okay.
for Maddie B.
All right. I've kind of picked some not hockey ones. I hope that's all right.
It's okay. I've got
Okay.
one more, and it's a hockey one, and then we can
Okay.
move into our
Okay.
next segment.
So this one's not a hockey one, but
Okay.
just for shits and giggles. She's a 10. Uh, but she always sneezes and farts at the same time.
She's a 10.
Yep.
And so, are you saying like anytime she sneezes, she also farts, and anytime
Yep. And
she
every time
farts,
she
she
farts, she
also
also
sneezes?
sneezes. Yes.
10. What? Absolutely.
But
Sometimes
what
I do
about
that, and I'm not even a 10.
that's right, you're an 11, buddy. But
Stop it.
but dude, think about allergy season
Yeah, that
or
could get brutal, but
baked bean
honestly,
night.
that's one where you just gotta roll the dice, and you hope she doesn't have allergies, and you just don't cook her baked beans.
Okay. Okay. Think of like a Taco Tuesday. Literally every time
I'm
think
not
about
serving
how
her.
much.
I'm
How much?
not serving her.
Okay.
She
All
doesn't
right.
get tacos.
Sorry, no beans for you tonight, honey.
No beans.
Daddy needs
None.
sleep because can't have you. Can't have you
Can't have you
hot box.
sneezing all night.
I can't have you hot boxing the sheets and then waking me up every 10 minutes
That's right. That's right.
with
I
a
didn't ask for a
sneeze.
Dutch oven all the time, and I sure as hell don't want one. All righty.
Oh,
Here's my last one I got for you, Springer.
yeah. All right.
I'm curious to see how this one plays out. She's a 5, but she's got season tickets to Kraken.
Oh, that makes her a 32, baby.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah. No, shoot, I'd say. He said she's a 5.
She's a 5, and she's got season tickets to the Kraken. But we're assuming you're going. She's got 2 tickets, and you're one of them if you're dating her.
I mean, yeah, she's a 9 at that point.
Wow, that's a
by far.
that's a
That's a
steep run.
jump.
Wow,
Yeah. You
I
kidding
like
me?
it. I like it, dude. Anything for the
I
Kraken.
have to.
Anything for the
anything,
Kraken,
baby. Hey, I'll do what I can. Do what I have to do for the boys.
I love it. I love it. Well, let's jump into a little master debaters from our last. We introduced this one 2 episodes ago, I think, maybe 1 episode ago. Talking about some hot dog sandwiches and some Pop-Tart raviolis. We got some good ones today. We got one that remains a little more to the hockey side of things, which is nice. But before we get into the hockey question, I think we first must touch this one, and I'll let you answer first on whatever you want to argue. Springer, is water wet?
This is a tough one.
It is.
This is not anything that was really preconceived, so I don't really have anything statistically to add to this.
We have not talked about
so we have not. No. I am going to say that water is wet. Yeah, absolutely.
I'm with you.
Because are you?
I am.
Wow. Okay. Thank goodness.
So if you need help with any thoughts explaining this one out, I've got some locked and loaded.
Okay. Well, you think about this. You get out of a pool. Right as you get out of the pool, what are you?
Wet. Like wet.
Right. Because of water. Because water makes you wet. You get out of the shower. You dry yourself off with a towel. What does that towel become?
Wet.
That's right. And why is that?
Because of water.
Amen, brother.
Bingo.
Amen. So if anybody has any sort of slander against us for taking the stance.
Let me put it in this terms, and I think this will be where we might win some people over if they disagree with us.
Okay.
The definition of something being wet is implying, I don't even think it's implying, I think it is just factual that to be wet, water molecules are sticking to said surface, or there's tension on said surface between there's water molecules on something making it wet. You know what water molecules also attach to? Other water molecules.
That's right.
By definition, water sticks to itself. What causes something to be wet? Water sticking to it. Water sticks to itself, water's wet.
Holy cow.
Thanks for coming to my TED Talk. Try arguing that one, flat earthers.
Yeah, good luck, flatters. Freaking. That one is not something we're going to use for master debaters, but yes.
She's a tenor. but she thinks water is not wet.
Oh. So somebody else that's delusional. I don't know. Can I have a thing for delusional chicks?
You,
Like,
it is sounding like it after this Flames watcher that you gave
yeah.
a 10.
Um, I'll give her a 3.14.
Okay, one more, just because now it's on my head and I have to know. She's a
Yeah.
tenor, but she thinks the Earth is flat.
She's a 3.14.
I love it, man. Okay, let's jump into our last question here, and then we will wrap up the episode. Keep it short for the viewers. So I know we've been
Oh,
getting
why
a
not?
little long on the recent ones, so cut
Yeah.
this one a little short. But okay, who is the best player in the National Hockey League since Gretzky?
Oh,
Current or anybody that has played since him? I'll let you answer first.
that one's tough. That one's really tough.
Or I can jump in
Because,
if you don't have an answer.
well, I'll just kind of think out loud here.
Yeah.
Which is a good thing to do because this is a podcast, so
Oh, I guess
talking
we could
your
do
thoughts through.
that. Yeah, sometimes.
It's crazy,
Okay.
right? Yeah.
I'll try doing that more, man.
Right. So I mean you have the obvious answers. Um uh you've got Crosby, you've got Ovi, you've got um like I wouldn't necessarily put McKinnon there quite yet, but you've got McDavid, I mean Austin Matthews. I would say that those are probably like your main four. It seems like every kind of generation, I guess you can say,
Yeah.
every 10 years, 15 years, it seems like there's always two generational sort of talents that come into the league. So I would say we've got that Connor Bedard kid or whatever coming out next year.
Oh yeah, dude. He's
And
gonna be a
then,
stud.
I mean, hot take, we didn't talk about the rookie draft, but I mean, Shane Wright,
Shane Wright has a
Seattle
chance to be
Kraken
pretty
boy.
solid.
I think I think he's got some potential. So we'll see, but it's tough because I also think of guys who had the potential, but if we're going strictly off of numbers,
We're going we're going strictly
going off
off of
everything.
maybe not numbers specifically, but we're going strictly off of who do you think has been the best in the league since Gretzky? Not potentially who could have been the best, but who has been the best in your opinion since Gretzky has played?
Since Gretzky, I mean, you have to say Ovi, right? I mean, the guy is literally chasing his all-time goals scored record and has a chance of breaking it, which 10 years ago, everybody thought was literally impossible. So the fact that Ovi is striving to achieve that is insane. So I think that would be my answer, I guess.
I like it, man. I like it. I think I'll be honest. I still don't think Obi catches him.
Hmm.
He's just dude. He's 115 away or something, 114 away. And
Yeah.
even if Obi stays on a 40 goal pace, dude, I don't think Obi stays in the league for another 4 years.
Hmm.
Think about that. That's a long time. That's a long time.
Yeah, it is.
And especially with how old he's getting, I'm not disagreeing with you. I think that's a great answer. I don't think he breaks it. Is all I'm saying. Okay,
But I
Ovi.
mean, I guess to argue that, if you put Ovi in his 1T circle on the power play, I'm sure that he could score at 65 years old.
I'm sure, but I don't think he continues to play past. I mean, what is he already now? He's up there.
Yeah, I think he's 40 something.
Let's check real quick.
Yeah.
What do you say?
Check real quick.
36. 36. I think he plays.
Oh, I could see him playing till he's 40.
I could also see him playing till he's 40. But we're also then assuming that he keeps a 40 goal pace at 40 years old. That's a feat that I'm not saying it can't happen. I'm not saying it won't. I'm just saying that's a tough feat to make happen, to keep a 40 goal
Ovi.
pace all the time for the next 4 years as a 40-year-old. That's not easy. Not easy. Not saying it's impossible. Not saying he can't do it, but that's a very tough feat to accomplish. So I'm curious. I'm curious to see where that goes. All right, man.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go a little later era. I'm saying Connor McDavid, and here's why. We are seeing him do things that we have never seen. He makes the current day and age of the NHL, which is much faster paced and much more skill based than Gretzky's era of the NHL was. It's just a fact. Like it's the end of the day, the technology and the equipment back in Gretzky's days were, not as studied and researched and in depth made as they are these days. The game today is just faster, and there's a lot more skill that comes to being that. I think McDavid makes everybody on every team he plays against look like a Pee Wee AA player. I've never seen anything like this from anybody else. His ability to create time and space by himself, let alone when he's, got Draisaitl on the other side of the ice to help him out. By himself, dude, is just unfathomable and something I never thought we would see in our lifetimes. So numbers might not speak it, and he's pretty young still too. I think he's like 28 or 29. So like we've got a lot of time for him to catch up. Here's the thing, dude. He's putting up 115-point seasons every season. That's the other thing, is he's blowing points out of the water every night that he's on the ice. It's remarkable what he does. And if he's not putting the puck in the net himself, he's setting somebody else up to do it. It's insane. So
right.
I'm going with McDavid, but I see your argument with Ovechkin as well. I think that's not a bad pick either.
Well, and it's so tough, and I just feel like it's so up to interpretation too. It's not like the Jordan LeBron argument, because I feel like there's so much more interpretation involved in trying to decide who the best player is since Gretzky,
So much more.
And I think that to an extent, there are a lot of guys who could have been the next best thing since Gretzky. I mean, if it weren't for injuries. I mean, you look at Crosby, he wasn't so injury ridden throughout most of the second half of his career, he could have been in this conversation right now.
Absolutely.
And that's the tough part, is obviously the game is changing significantly. So it's not like there's a lot of intentional injuries that are happening anymore.
Right.
So I could see the longevity of guys like McDavid and Shane Wright and this Connor Bedard kid next year or whatever. I could see those guys having Kaprizov, exactly. You could see those guys having longer careers because of the way that the game's changing. But
absolutely,
it's such a physical sport that regardless, guys get injured all the time.
100%.
So, and sometimes guys just can never fully recover from an injury. So kind of like what we've seen with Crosby. He had just one too many concussions, and it feels like he's kind of just slowed down a lot since then.
Yeah, absolutely. So, absolutely.
And a couple or 10, 15 years ago, I mean, I would have put Paul Kariya in that conversation as a guy who could have really made an impact in the league if he didn't get, hurt as much and as often as he did.
Yeah. So I would agree with that one.
Mm-hmm. So it's really kind of up to interpretation. It's not an A or a B side. It's A through Z side.
Yeah,
kind of.
Absolutely. I agree.
Thing. So
I agree.
I think it's a really good conversation, and I think it's something that there is no definite answer of. And I
No, and
think
there's not, and,
that's a
and it's
nice
going to be
thing.
something that like is forever developing and changing, and adding new dimensions. Like there's constantly this conversation will constantly be here. This is not a set in stone. One person says a name and they're right. Like you
Hmm.
said, constantly changing, constantly evolving. Gonna be interesting
Hmm.
to see if those answers, if we look back in 3 years, if those answers still hold true, and if we think they're, they make sense, or if we're eating our words and saying, "Wow,
Yeah.
we could not have been farther off," and there's some new stud in the league that's the
Name
greatest thing
Shane
since
Wright,
sliced
and
bread.
yeah, his
Yeah, and he
name's
brings the
Shane
crack into
Wright, and he
a Stanley Cup final in
re-stand
his third
back
year.
to back Stanley Cups, and yeah, it'll be great. It'll be so
Oh
great. I won't.
goodness.
Yeah, but we'll see. It's yeah, it's and let us know too, guys. Write into us.
Yeah, let us know who you think might be the best player since Gretzky stepped on the ice or stepped off
Yeah,
the ice. Sorry.
or shoot. Also, let us know who you think. Even if they're not in the league yet, let us know who you think might be the next
might
up
might
and
have the
coming
potential,
big
yeah,
star.
to be the
Hmm.
next McDavid, the next Crosby, the next Ovi, the next possibly Gretzky.
Yeah,
Well,
exactly.
ladies and gents, that wraps us up for this epi. We appreciate you all tuning in as always. We're gonna start getting our YouTube going a little bit. Feel free to tune
Yes.
into that. That is also going to be tape to tape. That is the number 2 pod. Yeah, go check us out on there. As always, like, comment, subscribe, all the bullshit. Sorry, I have to say it because if I don't, people don't. And turns out I do, and people still don't. So at this point, why do I keep
It's
even saying it?
crazy. Eh,
But we appreciate y'all.
pretty please.
Right in. Uh, let us know your thoughts. Let us know who's the best since Gretzky. Who is water wet? Uh, you know, any disagreements on the she's a tenor butt segment? We love to hear them
Yeah.
all. So we
I'll
appreciate
let you
y'all
know
for
what.
listening.
Yeah, let us know what you think about Gaudreau too, or any of the other free
Any of the
agency
free agency
signings.
deals. Yep, we love it,
Yeah.
guys. So
Yeah.
take care, and we will be in touch in the next couple of weeks with some new episodes and some more content. So as always, one love.
One love, guys.